In the highly competitive and harsh entertainment world, it is not uncommon for black actors to face prejudice and skepticism from critics. Many of them have been underestimated, looked down upon for their acting, and labeled as only playing one type of character or not talented enough simply because of their style or background. However, it is precisely through perseverance, resilience, and true talent that they have broken down all barriers, turning mockery into motivation to shine and become top stars in Hollywood. The list below highlights 20 black actors who have gone through a challenging journey, demonstrating the power of perseverance and the ability to rise above all prejudices in the entertainment industry. What do you think about the inspiring yet challenging journey of these 20 black actors? If you agree that they deserve recognition and celebration, leave a 1 in the comments. If you disagree or have a different opinion, comment 0. Don't forget to enjoy the video until the end and hit the subscribe button to support the channel so you won't miss the next inspiring stories. Tyler Perry grew up in poverty in New Orleans, where daily life was a series of relentless challenges. His youth was filled with hardships as he had to sleep in his car and take on various odd jobs to make ends meet. Despite the difficult circumstances, Perry remained passionate about the stage and began experimenting with playwriting in the early 1990s. His first plays did not receive much attention, with only a few dozen people attending, leading him to bankruptcy and homelessness. However, in that small, cramped room, Perry did not give up. He continued to write plays and lived on instant noodles for weeks on end. His breakthrough came when he created the character Medea, a strong, fierce grandmother who often holds a Bible in her hand. When Perry first introduced Medea, the national audience seemed unimpressed, and critics quickly labeled him as a minstrel show, a form of performance considered shallow and formulaic. Hollywood largely ignored him, lacking faith in Perry's talent or potential for growth. However, the opposite occurred among the general public audiences lined up to buy tickets for his shows, even generating revenue that surpassed performances by top stars like Beyoncé. Gradually, Perry had the opportunity to step into the film industry with movies based on the characters and stories he had created on stage. Although initially regarded by critics as cinematic disasters, his films generated enormous revenue exceeding $100 million each. The general audience embraced them warmly, making Perry an irreplaceable cultural icon in the entertainment field for the African American community and beyond. Today, Tyler Perry has built a massive entertainment empire with a billion-dollar studio in Atlanta, the new center of film production in the U.S. He not only controls major projects, but is also a powerful producer with extensive influence in the industry. His journey from poverty to becoming the king of Hollywood is a vivid testament to the power of perseverance, passion, and self-belief. Tyler Perry has proven that despite being ridiculed or rejected, anyone can become a star if they are persistent and dedicated. Kevin Hart began his journey from the neighborhoods of Boston and Philadelphia with a small stature but grand aspirations. In his early days on the comedy stage, he faced the harshness of the audience being booed, having objects thrown at him, and even being kicked off stage. Critics at the time regarded him as a comedian with just one act, being loud and talking more than delivering meaningful content. His early films like Soul Plane and Scary Movie 3 were poorly received, seen as merely filled with screams and silly gags. Instead of being sad or angry, Kevin Hart knows how to turn all the criticism and mockery into inspiration for himself. He has created a unique self-deprecating comedy style, always using himself as the subject, which helps the audience easily feel the authenticity and closeness. On social media, Hart builds the image of a friendly buddy, always spreading positive energy and timely humor. The combination of his performance talent and communication skills on digital platforms has quickly garnered him a large and loyal fan base. Tickets for his shows often sell out from small stages to the largest theaters in the world. Kevin Hart has also proven himself to be a talented entrepreneur by founding his own production company and continuously launching successful projects. The films and television shows he invests in or produces always receive significant attention from global audiences. Not only does Hart perform on the comedy stage, but he also explores various other fields such as film, television, and even online business. His name has now become a brand contributing to changing the perception of Black comedians in the entertainment industry. Kevin Hart's career continues to flourish as he becomes one of the highest-paid artists in the world. Critics who once dismissed and doubted Hart's talent must now reconsider. They cannot deny his influence, talent, and versatility in acting as well as his perseverance and strong work ethic. Hart has proven that there are no limits to a person's effort and ambition. From a small-time comedian who was ridiculed to a global superstar, Kevin Hart is a living testament to the success story achieved through determination and creativity. His story is also a powerful reminder never to judge a person solely based on appearances or initial failures. Taraji P. Henson grew up in Washington, D.C., in a humble family where many around her doubted she would become a leader. Throughout her years studying at Howard High School, she not only focused on her studies, but also had to take on various jobs to cover her tuition and living expenses. Upon entering Hollywood, Taraji was often limited to small roles, such as the best friend or the mischievous neighbor, rarely given the opportunity to showcase her deep acting abilities. Her role in the film Baby Boy has pigeonholed her as the angry Black woman, a rigid stereotype that makes it difficult for critics to recognize the depth of her acting. Despite being labeled this way, Taraji did not give up and continued to work hard on her skills. She actively sought to learn working with dialect coaches to enhance her language abilities and portray her characters as authentically as possible. Her relentless efforts gradually garnered more attention, even when she took on a role in The Curious Case of Benjamin Button alongside Brad Pitt. Many people still doubt her abilities and status in the film industry. However, it is these efforts that laid the groundwork for a significant advancement in her career. The biggest turning point came when Taraji took on the role of Cookie Lyon in the television series Empire. In this role, she not only portrayed a complex, multi-dimensional character, but also infused the role with authenticity and strength, captivating audiences and prompting critics to reassess her talent. The role of Cookie has become iconic and helped her establish a solid position in the entertainment industry, breaking down old stereotypes about Black actresses in Hollywood. Gabrielle Union transitioned from modeling to acting and faced significant criticism. Initially, she was often only invited to play bland beauty roles with the assumption that looks were everything. In teen films like She's All That and 10 Things I Hate About You, she was seen merely as a face added to the screen. When taking on lead roles in romantic comedies like The Brothers and Deliver Us from Ava, critics claimed she lacked comedic charm and should either quit acting or marry a wealthy man. However, Union chose to persevere, proving her ability across various film genres and gradually becoming one of the leading Black actresses in contemporary entertainment. The criticism became even harsher as it targeted specific details, appearance, voice demeanor, rather than her acting skills. Many entertainment articles unfavorably compared her to Halle Berry or Whitney Houston, suggesting that she was trying to be a lesser version of them without any real talent. Union's breakthrough came with Bring It On, but many believe she merely portrayed a version of herself, a cheerleader from the Mean Girls group. They fail to see how she skillfully infused depth and intelligence into that seemingly bland villain, making her memorable and quotable. In Birth of a Nation, she showcases a very different aspect of her acting ability, not just as an actress, but also as a producer and activist, creating her own opportunities and demanding her own respect. Michael B. Jordan began his acting career at a young age, but not everyone believed in his abilities. When he participated in the series All My Children, he was criticized as being stiff as a board, lacking emotion, and not being natural. His role as Wallace in The Wire, one of his first notable performances, also did not help him avoid criticism. Some people argued that the character was too weak and sensitive to fit the harsh context of the streets of Baltimore. Jordan's youthful appearance led him to be seen as unreliable in the role of a child growing up amidst violence and crime. Instead of being recognized, he was viewed as miscast and not up to par. His early films like Hardball and Blackout did not help improve his image. At that time, Jordan's acting was criticized as stiff, lacking depth, and devoid of the necessary naturalness. One critic even compared him to a lifeless mannequin, lacking vitality on screen. When he was cast as Johnny Storm in Fantastic Four 2015, he became a target of criticism not only for his acting, but also for the racial aspect of a role that had previously been associated with a white character. Social media was flooded with sarcastic comments claiming that Jordan had ruined their childhood memories and that he did not deserve the superhero role. However, a turning point came when he collaborated with director Ryan Coogler in Creed. In the role of Adonis Creed, the son of legendary boxer Apollo, Creed Jordan portrayed a complex, emotional, and deeply layered character. He trains rigorously to achieve a convincing physique and martial arts skills, while also showcasing sharp internal acting, proving that he is a talented actor. No longer a puppet, Michael B. Jordan is now one of the top male actors in Hollywood. Critics who once mocked him have been forced to admit their mistake when faced with a complete, refined, and charismatic actor, a testament to the fact that no one should be underestimated too early. Mo'Nique began her career on the tough, small stages of comedy clubs in Baltimore, where the audience is not easily pleased, and artists must earn every laugh. With her curvy figure, loud voice, and unapologetic straightforwardness, she developed a unique comedic style that isn't afraid to tackle sensitive topics. However, this boldness made many in the entertainment industry hesitant. Critics initially did not see her as a serious artist, but rather as a comedian, catering to a specific audience, loud, lacking depth, and unsuitable for mainstream television. When she appeared in the sitcom, the Parkers part of the public loved her energetic humor, but critics were not as forgiving. They argued that the character Nikki Parker, whom she portrayed, reinforced negative stereotypes about black women, loud, ridiculous, and out of control. Numerous articles at the time criticized her for damaging the image of the community rather than viewing it as an entertaining role. Mo'Nique was typecast in roles of aggressive, exaggerated women, and it seemed Hollywood did not consider her for any serious roles. With comedies like Fat Girls and Soul Plane, she continued to be criticized as a one-dimensional actress, someone who only knew how to scream and throw herself into situations for laughs. Some entertainment writers even publicly advised her to stick to stand-up comedy instead of trying to break into film, a field they believed was beyond her reach. Dismissed and often underestimated, Mo'Nique felt excluded from major opportunities despite her talent, loyal audience, and unique performance style. But the turning point came in 2009 when director Lee Daniels offered her the role of the cruel mother in Precious. This role was unlike anything she had done before. It was dark, painful, heavy, and complex. No longer the loud comedian, Monique demonstrated a deep understanding of the character's psychology, inner turmoil, and a performance so powerful it was impossible to ignore. Precious became a moment that changed everything in her career. The role of the abusive mother not only shocked the audience, but also made critics reevaluate all the biases they had assigned to her. Monique didn't just act well, she moved people. The Oscar for Best Supporting Actress that she received was not only a reward for her outstanding performance, but also a testament to the unyielding journey of an artist who had been underestimated. Monique proves that someone who has been sidelined can still become the brightest star if they do not give up on themselves. Morgan grew up in the Bronx in a poor and challenging environment and often witnessed the heavy impacts of his father's addiction. He once shared that comedy was not just a hobby but a tool for survival, helping him maintain his spirit when life became dark. However, when he started his stand-up comedy career, Morgan was not warmly received. His performance style was described as unstable, sometimes too instinctive, at other times lacking coherence. In a comedy scene that favors sharpness and precision, Morgan is seen as an outsider not fitting the standard structure. When he was hired by Saturday Night Live, one of the most important platforms for American comedy, skepticism grew even higher. Some critics called him the faulty version of Eddie Murphy, criticizing him for being overly animated, loud, and lacking subtlety. The sketches he participated in were rated inconsistently, sometimes awkwardly, and almost never stood out as highlights of the show. Many people in the industry have criticized him for his lack of professionalism, even openly questioning Morgan's intelligence and creative thinking abilities. He became an easy target for mockery, an artist too quirky to stand out, too eccentric to be respected. However, what sets Tracy Morgan apart, and ultimately made him a star, is his unfiltered sincerity. He doesn't try to appear smart or conventionally funny, but instead brings pain, madness, and unpredictability to each character. In 30 Rock, the role of Tracy Jordan seems to have been written just for him. A foolish, uncontrollable person, yet full of life and iconic qualities. It is this awkwardness that was once ridiculed that has now become the only material that can make this character so vibrant. Morgan proves that you don't have to be like anyone else to succeed. Sometimes being different is what makes you irreplaceable. Taye Diggs has faced personal skepticism. He is so handsome that directors and critics struggle to look past his appearance to recognize his true talent. He comes from Broadway with demanding musicals like Rent, but when he transitioned to film, audiences easily labeled him as the romantic comedy leading man, the pretty boy type, overlooking his professional acting skills. He is often judged as lacking depth when taking on complex roles outside of his familiar genre. However, through his genuine talent and selective choice of roles, Diggs gradually established himself as a reliable and respected actor across various genres, from drama films to modern television, and broke free from being judged solely by his appearance. Taye Diggs's early roles in films like How Stella Got Her Groove Back labeled him as merely a decorative piece for female audiences. Many critics argued that he lacked depth, relying only on his handsome looks and charm. Some entertainment writers even joked that his primary acting skill was looking good while shirtless. The mockery grew increasingly harsh as he participated in films labeled as formulaic romantic comedies for people of color, such as The Best Man. Despite commercial success, critics viewed them as predictable and argued that Diggs was merely repeating a certain type of character. They compared him to the male version of the typical romantic comedy actor, attractive but lacking depth. What disappointed Diggs the most was that people overlooked his solid stage background and the singing and dancing skills he had honed over many years on Broadway. Hollywood only wants you to play sensitive, handsome guy roles without recognizing your true skills. Even in private practice, some critics still argue that you are just repeating an old image, even though you have brought depth and nuance to the character of the Doctor. Recent, more challenging roles have somewhat changed public perception, but Diggs has had to spend many years to be seen as a well-rounded actor. Whoopi Goldberg's journey to stardom is completely different from that of her contemporaries, not only because of her background, but also because she did not fit any of the molds that Hollywood was familiar with. Born and raised in Brooklyn, New York, Goldberg presented an unprecedented image, unglamorous, unpretentious, and not conforming to the beauty standards or the gentle portrayals typically seen in leading actresses. When she began performing stand-up comedy in the early 1980s, she chose the harder path, portraying characters with deep social dimensions, commenting on race, poverty, gender, and inequality with a sharp and raw honesty. With a unique style of performance, many audiences were unsure whether to laugh, reflect, or feel challenged. And for many traditional critics, Goldberg simply did not fit the mold. Then came the color purple. When legendary director Steven Spielberg cast her in the lead role of the film adaptation of Alice Walker's Pulitzer Prize-winning novel, a wave of protest and skepticism erupted fiercely. As an unknown comedian with a look that did not meet Hollywood's strict standards and lacking extensive experience in dramatic films, Goldberg was deemed a wrong choice. She was mocked not only for her name and profession, but also for her appearance, speaking style, and even her straightforward attitude in interviews. But when the film was released, her performance left the audience in silence. The role of Celie, a black woman who is oppressed yet full of strength, was portrayed by Goldberg with subtle emotion and shocking depth. The first Oscar nomination came quickly, and despite previous criticisms, Goldberg was recognized by the world as a true leading actress. However, Goldberg did not stop at a breakthrough role. She continued to push boundaries, refusing to be confined to merely serious or comedic roles. Her fantastical performance in Ghost earned her the Oscar for Best Supporting Actress, silencing those who had mocked her for a second time. Not only is she the first black actress to host the Oscars, but she is also the first woman of color to achieve EGOT, that is winning all 4 awards: Emmy, Grammy, Oscar, and Tony. These accomplishments did not come from trying to meet expectations, but from Goldberg daring to be different and using that difference to carve her own path. Her journey is proof that Hollywood can sometimes be slow to understand, but true talent, no matter how unconventional, will ultimately find its light. Since the early days of his comedy career in Washington, D.C., Martin Lawrence has brought a strong, energetic, and uncompromising style of humor. His stand-up performances, featuring various characters and tones, either leave the audience extremely entertained or completely repulsed. Initial critics labeled him as having an overly exaggerated sense of humor, lacking sophistication, and appealing only to a simple taste audience. When he had his own show, Martin, the criticism intensified. Some critics call the show a prime example of lowest common denominator entertainment, arguing that his characters are full of stereotypes and lack depth. When he transitioned to film, he was labeled as an actor who only knows how to shout loudly and play the noisy sidekick as seen in House Party and Boomerang. Some critics believe he is trying to become the next Eddie Murphy, but lacks the necessary sharpness and charm. Off-screen, Lawrence's controversial behavior and personal issues also make him an easy target for entertainment writers. Some even argue that he is an example of how not everyone who is famous deserves it. But what critics fail to see is the lasting influence of Lawrence on the next generation of comedians, those who view him as a trailblazer for a straightforward, free, and relatable style of humor. Martin Lawrence possesses an incredible ability to connect with the mainstream audience, those who see themselves in the humorous yet authentic characters he portrays. Although often met with skepticism or dismissed by critics, Lawrence still makes millions of people laugh until it hurts. His films may not be contenders for major awards, but they achieve tremendous box office success and create many lines that have become part of popular culture still quoted to this day. When Bad Boys proved he could lead a major action franchise, even the harshest critics had to admit that they had underestimated the lasting appeal of Martin Lawrence. If you find these stories inspiring and want to see more Black talent recognized as they deserve, don't forget to like and share this video with your friends. Let's spread respect and support for the artists who have overcome prejudice to assert themselves. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next interesting and meaningful stories. The career journey of Cuba Gooding Jr. is a clear testament to how Hollywood can elevate someone to great heights in one moment and then turn its back the next. After making a strong impression with his emotional and energetic performance in Jerry Maguire, Gooding not only won the Oscar for Best Supporting Actor, but was also seen as the potential heir to Denzel Washington, a Black actor capable of making an impact in both commercial and artistic films. When he shouted the phrase, "Show me the money," on-screen audiences around the world remembered his name. But that glow did not last long. Instead of moving on to high-quality projects, Gooding began taking roles that confused both audiences and critics. Films like What Dreams May Come, Chill Factor Snow Dogs, and especially Boat Trip eroded the image of an actor once considered an icon. Many questioned whether Gooding was choosing films for the scripts or simply for the paycheck. Some of his roles were criticized as ridiculous, exaggerated, and failing to tap into the depth he once showcased in Jerry Maguire. The films released directly on DVD instead of in theaters also contributed to pushing him away from the Hollywood spotlight. Worse, on the internet, the name Cuba Gooding Jr. gradually became a joke mentioned as a prime example of the Oscar curse, the curse that causes the careers of some actors to plummet after winning the most prestigious award. However, what the public often forgets is that Gooding did not disappear. He did not give up. Despite the fading glory, Cuba continued to work hard, still participating in small projects and still supporting his family through acting, something that is not easy in an industry known for its harshness. He didn't understand why his afternoons, once filled with carefree play, had now become formal performances. He didn't understand why the adults' eyes had grown so serious. Until one day, he broke down during practice and asked, "Can I still be a child?" Catherine knelt down, hugged him tightly, and whispered something only a mother could say, "You will always be a child, Louis." Jaden Smith became famous at a very young age, largely due to being the son of one of the biggest movie stars in the world, Will Smith. However, early fame also meant that he had to grow up under the spotlight where every action expression and performance was scrutinized. His first role in The Pursuit of Happiness brought audiences to tears and earned him the title of Promising Child Actor. However, when Jaden began taking on leading roles such as in the remake of The Karate Kid 2010, things became more challenging. Although the film was a huge success at the box office, many critics still believe that Jaden is too inexperienced and lacks the depth to convey genuine emotions in such a classic role. The biggest setback came with After Earth, where Jaden starred alongside his own father in an ambitious project. The film was considered a failure both artistically and commercially. Many opinions suggest that Jaden's acting was stiff, lacking vitality, and unable to convey the complex emotions that the role required. Some viewers even claim that he only got the role due to family connections rather than talent. Not only has Jaden been criticized for his acting ability, but he has also become the subject of a series of mocking memes on social media, from philosophical tweets to his unique fashion sense, further distorting his image in the eyes of the public. However, those who mock him forget that Jaden Smith has never tried to be a copy of his father. He is forging his own bold and challenging path. In music, Jaden finds his true voice, a young artist with an independent mindset, daring to think differently, act differently, and live authentically. His albums Sire and Heiress received positive reception from both critics and fans, showing that he is not just a nepotism baby, but a true artist. His gender-neutral fashion style, which once made him a target of ridicule, has now become an inspiration for a generation of young creatives. Jaden not only survives the wave of criticism, he redefines success in his own way and proves that being different is not a weakness, but an essential part of the process of growing up and asserting oneself. Tiffany Haddish's rise to fame is like a journey to the top of a mountain in high heels, impressive but also full of challenges. Her early stand-up performances were sometimes criticized for lacking sophistication and being overly reliant on energy and noise to generate laughter. Some critics argued that she lacked depth and was only suited for the role of a supporting comic. Nevertheless, Haddish did not back down. She continued to work constantly, honing her skills and unique style. Her breakout performance in Girls Trip changed the game. She not only had the audience laughing uncontrollably, but also proved her ability to dominate the big screen. With her explosive energy and unique personality, Haddish quickly became one of the most prominent faces in comedy and film. Some purists have complained that Tiffany Haddish's style leans more towards energy and loudness than authenticity, especially during her early television appearances, which did not endear her to critics. In her small roles on That's So Raven and My Name is Earl, Haddish often played mischievous, talkative characters, leading some to believe she was perpetuating negative stereotypes about people of color. Entertainment critics quickly labeled her as a ghetto comedian, suggesting she could only play one type of humorous character and lacked diversity. As Tiffany began to take on larger roles, the criticism intensified. Her performance in Keanu was deemed over the top and annoying by many who felt she was deliberately stealing the spotlight and that her comedic style was too crude for mainstream audiences. Some critics even suggested that she should tone down her personality if she wants to be taken more seriously. Nevertheless, Tiffany's real breakthrough came with Girls Trip. However, even then, there were opinions that she was just playing herself and questioning whether that could be considered real acting. They argued that the character Dana she portrayed was too exaggerated, almost like she was doing stand-up comedy in the middle of a film. Some writers wondered if Tiffany could take on a more normal, subdued role. However, what many people overlook is that Tiffany's authenticity is her secret weapon. She doesn't try to be fake or become someone else. Instead, she brings her personal experiences and true personality into each role. Her story of a difficult childhood and time spent struggling with homelessness has created depth and authenticity in her comedic works, something that more polished artists often find hard to achieve. When she hosted Saturday Night Live and delivered an opening monologue about growing up in an orphanage, even the toughest critics had to admit they had underestimated her depth. Ice Cube faced a significant challenge when transitioning from hardcore rapper to Hollywood actor. In the eyes of many, the powerful image of an NWA member is inseparable from the artist himself, leading to skepticism from the very beginning. His role in Boys and the Hood, directed by John Singleton, was initially seen by many as a gimmick, a way of acting that was transparently rapper-like to lend authenticity to the film rather than real acting. Critics questioned whether Ice Cube could overcome his rebellious rapper image to become a serious actor. But what he demonstrated in this film exceeded expectations. His natural presence voice, conveying deep emotions and authentic expressions, left the audience astonished. However, the shadow of skepticism still follows Ice Cube as he transitioned to comedy films like Friday, a movie that helped him make a lasting impression on American audiences. Many critics argue that he is selling short his serious artistic potential by choosing easy and unchallenging roles. When pursuing a family comedy style with films like Are We There Yet and The Longest Yard, many hip-hop fans felt that he had betrayed his roots, transforming from a gangster rapper into a comedic entertainer, a different Ice Cube from what they once knew. Criticism regarding the dilution of the serious brand he had built sometimes led to an overly simplistic evaluation of Cube's film career. However, amidst the wave of skepticism and criticism, Ice Cube built a rich and diverse film career for himself, not only acting but also producing and creating content. He founded a production company, creating opportunities for many talented young black artists and helping to reflect the urban community more authentically on screen. The project Straight Outta Compton, of which he was a producer, became a global hit, affirming Cube's status not only as an actor but also as a highly influential filmmaker. His career demonstrates that appeal and influence do not lie in being praised by the audience, but in truly reaching various layers of society. Nick Cannon was labeled as corny right from the start of his career, to the point where it almost became his nickname. Starting with stand-up comedy as a teenager, his friendly, safe, and family-friendly style made him an easy target for critics who believe that comedy must be bold, even dangerous to be considered real. Cannon's performances are often seen as too safe, too eager to please the audience. When he had his own show on Nickelodeon, many people commented that he was an artist only suitable for a children's audience, lacking appeal for adults. The show's cancellation after one season further led critics to believe that Cannon was just a passing phenomenon, unable to maintain long-term success. His film career was no better, as movies like Drumline were popular but criticized for him playing himself and lacking depth. Love Don't Cost a Thing was criticized as a bland teen comedy, wasting the time of both the audience and Cannon himself. Some journalists suggested that he should focus on hosting, leaving the acting role to more specialized professionals. However, when he became the host of America's Got Talent, Cannon still faced criticism for his predictable comedic style, forced energy, and overly wholesome approach for an entertainment show. On social media, he was mocked for his outfits and his somewhat overly enthusiastic delivery. But in the end, Nick Cannon laughed louder as he built a diverse entertainment empire, maintaining his position in the industry for many years. While critics are busy mocking Nick Cannon, his radio show has been broadcast nationwide, and his comedy specials have also attracted a loyal audience. Cannon's hosting performances demonstrate his rare ability to connect with diverse demographic groups. When Wild 'N Out became a hit on MTV, it showed that Cannon understands comedy and entertainment in a way that traditional critics find difficult to appreciate. Brandy Norwood has faced the timeless challenge of how to be recognized as a true actress, while most people primarily remember her as a famous singer. When she transitioned to acting, skepticism quickly arose. Many critics struggled to separate her musical persona from her acting. Her debut sitcom, Moesha, was recognized as a success with young audiences, but to critics, it resembled a teen comedy featuring a pop star attempting to act rather than a serious role. The mockery did not stop there, but continued to escalate as Brandy took on more dramatic roles. Her performance in I Still Know What You Did Last Summer was considered unconvincing by some horror movie audiences, as they felt she was too submissive and did not showcase the necessary personality. Critics described her performance as stiff, lacking expression, and devoid of emotional depth, qualities that were not suitable for a role requiring subtlety and inner strength. When Brandy decided to showcase her abilities in more mature roles, such as in the series The Game, the response from critics remained cautious. Many articles questioned what she could do beyond the innocent, cute characters, a familiar image that has been associated with her since her pop music days. Some writers even advised her to accept her limitations and not to try to break away from the established image. However, Brandy is not just a mere visual artist, she is someone who continuously evolves. Her role in Queens, a recent film series, has prompted critics to re-evaluate their previous assessments. Here, Brandy clearly demonstrates her growth as an actress. The character has depth, nuanced emotions, and is completely distinct from her previous teenage persona. Critics have had to acknowledge that she has made remarkable progress and is a top-tier performing artist, proving that perseverance and the ability to revive one's career can turn prejudice into a stepping stone. Raven-Symoné is one of the stars who grew up on screen, maturing right before the eyes of American audiences. Starting with her adorable role in The Cosby Show, she quickly became a familiar face to the public. However, growing up on television also means that every acting mistake, awkward moment, and personal development is recorded and scrutinized publicly. Raven's early performances were seen as charming, but lacking depth, as critics always expect Hollywood children to behave like miniature adults. When That's So Raven premiered on Disney Channel, it was a major turning point that made her an icon for a generation of teenage viewers. However, critics viewed the show as a childish farce, with its acting style considered overly exaggerated physical expressions and not suitable for an adult audience. They argued that Raven had become the face of shallow content lacking depth, only appropriate for viewers under 12 years old, a label she had to carry throughout many years of her career. The mockery continued as she appeared in films like The Cheetah Girls and College Road Trip, leading many to believe she was stuck in a Disney shell and unable to break through that barrier to create mature art. Even when participating in The View, she faced even harsher criticism, this time not just for her acting, but also for her intellect, reasoning, and personal opinions. Some opinions suggested that she should stick to comedic roles rather than trying to become a serious social or political voice. However, Raven has quietly proven the opposite. Over the years, she has continuously challenged herself with various genres, from sitcoms, game shows, and reality television to talk shows, showcasing a level of versatility that few artists of her generation possess. Her return to Raven's home is not only a commercial hit, but also a clear testament that her success does not come from luck, but from her ability to transform her professionalism and a persistent acting instinct, qualities that many critics have overlooked. Terrence Howard is one of the most uniquely styled actors in Hollywood, a man who possesses a deep, distinctive voice and displays a philosophical and unconventional acting style. However, this very difference has made him a target for criticism since his earliest roles. Critics have remarked that Howard's performances are overly stylized, intentionally emphasizing points rather than expressing emotions naturally. Despite having participated in several notable independent films, he is still viewed as too polite to the point of being distant, lacking the necessary warmth to create depth in his characters. The breakthrough role in Hustle and Flow, where he played a drug dealer aspiring to become a rapper, was once expected to change the way critics viewed him. However, instead of consensus, many felt that Howard acted too intensely, displaying excessive emotion and lacking control. Despite being nominated for Best Actor at the Oscars, some opinions questioned whether it was a recognition of his talent or merely a result of a less competitive season. When he entered the Marvel Universe as James Rhodey Rhodes in Iron Man, his performance was seen as stiff, and Howard was quickly replaced in the sequel, leading to discussions that he lacked the charisma to stay long-term with Beyond the screen, his controversial statements and tumultuous personal life have somewhat affected his professional image. Some critics argue that his eccentric personality and bizarre comments about physics, mathematics, etc. make it difficult for people to see him as a serious artist. However, when he took on the role of Lucius Lyon in the series, Empire Terrence Howard made many people reevaluate him. The character he portrayed is not only powerful and complex, but also deeply tragic, a type of character that Howard's non-traditional acting style has made vibrant and unforgettable. Empire became a significant boost that helped him assert that sometimes being unusual is not a weakness, but rather the very element that creates a unique appeal for an actor. Anthony Anderson is a prime example of a comedian who has been pigeonholed for too long by stereotypes about his appearance and style. Throughout the early years of his career, he was often only cast in humorous supporting roles, the big, loud friends who provided comic relief for the main character. Roles like those in Barbershop or Scary Movie 3, while funny, led to Anderson being labeled as a one-dimensional actor lacking depth. Critics noted that he lacked subtlety in his performances and primarily relied on physical energy and exuberance rather than actual skill. Those roles made it easy for the audience to overlook his potential for growth. As he continued to participate in poorly rated comedies like Johnson Family Vacation and Transformers, the wave of criticism became even heavier. Some journalists even suggested that Anderson was choosing roles for the paycheck rather than the quality of the content, and that he was a symbol of the decline of mainstream comedy. Because of these views, when Blackish premiered, many were skeptical. They believed Anderson lacked the sophistication to carry a family sitcom addressing themes of race-class education and social responsibility. Many critics predicted that the show would fail because no one believed he could make the audience laugh while also making them think. However, Blackish became a turning point as Anderson not only proved his emotional acting ability, but also demonstrated the strength of a leading actor. He brought to life the image of a father who is humorous, profound, and vulnerable, making the character relatable and authentic. The Emmy nominations, along with praise from both audiences and critics, forced many to reevaluate. Anthony Anderson not only overcame the shadow of being a supporting comedian, but also established himself as a well-rounded artist underestimated for many years due to shallow prejudices. Lena Waithe faces her own kind of criticism as she challenges traditional expectations of the image and representation of Black writers and actors in Hollywood. Her debut work was dismissed by some critics who argued that the writing was too specific to the experiences of urban Black individuals, failing to attract mainstream audiences. When she began acting in shows like Master of None, many critics claimed she was merely playing herself and questioned whether it was genuine acting. They believe that she benefits from the Hollywood diversification movement more than from actual talent. The Emmy Award for the script of Master of None should have silenced the skeptics, but instead it led to criticism about the sustainability of her success, whether it is merely a moment of recognition for a minority voice. Many critics even question whether she is capable of taking on multiple roles in major projects while working on several works simultaneously. However, her success in Queen and Slim and 20s proves that she has a vision and creativity that far exceed what traditional Hollywood expects. She not only succeeded despite criticism, but also opened up new models for how entertainment is created and distributed. Despite facing criticism, skepticism, or being underestimated, these 20 black actors never allowed those prejudices to hinder their progress. They have proven that true talent, relentless perseverance, and unique personality are the factors that help them not only win the hearts of the audience, but also change the perception of the entire entertainment industry. Their stories are not just personal journeys of overcoming difficulties, but also a vivid testament to the power of belief, courage, and self-confidence. In a world still rife with prejudices and limitations, their success is a powerful source of inspiration for the next generation of artists, as well as for all of us, those who are struggling to be recognized and respected. They have opened new doors, creating space for greater diversity and authenticity in art, making cinema and television increasingly rich and relatable to the real lives of the audience. Let us continue to support and honor the artists who dare to be different, who dare to break all molds to bring forth profound and meaningful stories. It is the diversity and authenticity in acting that create the strength and beauty of art, transcending all limits and expectations. Thank you for joining us on this journey of exploration. If you found this video helpful and inspiring, don't forget to like and share it so that more people can learn about their stories. And please leave a comment below to let us know what you think about the journey of these stars, because their story is also our story.